The traditional power forward position has really become a thing of the past, transitioning to a tweener spot between wing and center over the years. In today's video, I'm going to rank the top 10 fours in the league. If you haven't seen my top 10 rankings for point guard through small forward, you can find those in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10, Aaron Gordon. Gordon's evolution as a player over the years has been remarkable to watch. He went from looking lost as a top scoring option with the Magic to finding his role in Denver and playing it perfectly. Gordon was extremely efficient from the field last year, shooting 56.4% while averaging 16.3 points and 6.5 rebounds per game. He's arguably the best off-ball cutter in the league, and when you're playing with Nikola Jokic, that will come in handy. There are certainly limitations to Gordon's game, specifically the three-point shot, but what he brings offensively within the arc, combined with his strong defensive abilities, earns him a spot in the top 10. Number 9, Evan Mobley. Mobley didn't exactly take the sophomore leap that many Cavs fans were hoping for last season, but the 22-year-old is still a freak athlete with an incredibly high two-way ceiling. A Defensive Player of the Year finalist last season, Mobley racked up 1.5 blocks and almost a steal per game, showcasing his versatility to guard 3 through 5 at an elite level and to defend guards with surprising effectiveness. Offensively, Mobley is still a work in progress, but he did average 16.2 points per game on a Cavs team that has no shortage of scoring options. Hopefully he can take that next step this season and solidify himself as one of the best bigs in the league. Number 8, Paolo Banchero. The first sophomore to appear on any of my top 10 positional rankings, and Paolo deserves it. The former number 1 overall pick wasted no time showing the league what he's capable of, averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 4 assists per game in his first season. At 6'10", 250, Banchero should be way too large to move with the fluidity and agility that he does. The 3 is still a major work in progress, but it's rare to see a rookie enter the league so polished, and the sky is the limit for Paolo if he can continue to hone his craft. At only 20 years old, he could skyrocket up these rankings by the end of the year. Number 7, Kristaps Porzingis. I know what you're thinking. Porzingis is 7'3". Is he really a power forward? To put it simply, yes. The Latvian sharpshooter does most of his damage offensively from distance, taking 5.1 threes per game over the course of his career and hitting them at a relatively high percentage. He's played the 4 for the majority of his career, and that will likely be the case again in Boston, as he'll slot in alongside Al Horford or Rob Williams in the front court. Everyone knows about Porzingis' scoring abilities, but he's quietly one of the best rim protectors in the league, averaging almost 2 blocks per game in his career. Availability is a big concern for Kristaps, but when he's on the floor, he's one of the most skilled players in the entire NBA. Number 6, Jaren Jackson Jr. The reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Triple J is coming off the best season of his career in which he averaged 18.6 points, 6.8 rebounds, and a whopping 3 blocks per game. Jackson Jr. splits time between power forward and center, but when Steven Adams is healthy, the 4 is his primary position. Jaren is also a pretty effective three-point shooter for a big man, hitting 35.5% of his attempts last year. Foul trouble and availability have been areas of concern for the young star, but he's a monster on the defensive side of the floor and has earned the number 6 spot in these rankings. Number 5, Lauri Markkanen. After 5 underwhelming seasons between Chicago and Cleveland, Markkanen put the entire league on notice in 2022 after landing with the Jazz as part of the Donovan Mitchell trade. As it turns out, all Lauri needed to become a star was an opportunity as the number 1 option. In that role for the Jazz, he averaged a ridiculous 25.6 points and 8.6 rebounds per game while shooting 39% from behind the arc. It's fair to wonder if that season could end up being an outlier for Markkanen, but if he continues to play at this level, the Jazz have a franchise cornerstone for years to come. Number 4, Pascal Siakam. Siakam is the perfect example of the tweener power forward build I was talking about earlier. He's too big to be a small forward and too small to be a center. For most players with similar builds, that can be a serious problem. Siakam, on the other hand, uses it to his advantage. The versatile forward averaged a career-high 24.2 points and 5.8 assists per game last season to go along with 7.8 boards. When talking about playmaking big men, all of the attention naturally goes to guys like Jokic or Sabonis, but Siakam is truly capable of being one of the primary facilitators in an offense, which is extremely rare at his size. It'll be interesting to see if he's still in Toronto by the time the season rolls around, but even if he's dealt to a different team, he'll find a way to produce at a really high level. Number 3, Zion Williamson. Zion is incredibly difficult to rank among his peers because when he's on the court, his production is fantastic. The problem is, he just can't seem to stay on the court. In the 3 NBA seasons he's actually played in, Williamson has taken the court 114 of a possible 246 times in the regular season, and he missed the entire 2021-22 campaign with a foot injury. So, availability is obviously a massive concern. That said, you can't argue with the numbers when he's on the floor. Last season, Zion averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, shooting a ridiculous 60.8% from the field while also establishing himself as a strong defensive force. Williamson is clearly the 3rd best power forward in the league when he's healthy. We just need to see it on a more consistent basis. Number 2, Kevin Durant. The complete NBA player, KD has been a nightmare for defenses since he entered the league. The star forward has never averaged fewer than 20 points per game over the course of 15 seasons, and he's coming off yet another dominant campaign last year. Soon to be 35 years old, Durant's athleticism may not be quite at the level it used to be, but every other part of his game hasn't dropped off in the slightest. He's still arguably the most unguardable ISO scorer in the league and is undoubtedly one of the top 10 players on the planet. Up until this point, KD is in a different tier compared to the 8 guys ranked below him on this list. Number 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The most obvious ranking on this list, Giannis is in a league of his own among the other power forwards in the league, which is saying something considering how dominant Durant also is. While Milwaukee's last season ended horribly, Giannis had a career year from an individual standpoint, averaging 31 points, 12 rebounds, and nearly 6 assists per game. Antetokounmpo has a case as the most physically dominant player in the association, and in the eyes of many, he's the 2nd best player in the entire league, only behind Nikola Jokic. This was the biggest no-brainer in my entire list. Stay tuned for the 5th and final part of this series where I rank the top 10 centers in the league coming over the next couple weeks.